Hi guys, my name is Dee Baker from Elements of Empowerment, and today's video is about assertive communication. So, following on from our last video on boundary setting, a huge way to help you to enforce boundaries is to communicate assertively. So, let's start with what is assertiveness. So, assertiveness is being direct, honest, courteous, and respectful while interacting with others. Assertiveness is also the ability to express our feelings and assert our rights while respecting the feelings and the rights of others. And I think maybe that's what's missed a lot of the time is assertiveness is not just about getting your own way. It is about respecting the relationship, respecting the dynamic and the interaction with someone else, while also being clear with your own needs. So it really does help you to clarify your needs to the other person. And while being assertive comes naturally to some people, it is a skill that can be learned, and there are many advantages of becoming more assertive. And so if you want to picture this like a Venn diagram, it's in one circle, there's your needs. In the other circle, there's the other's needs. And in the middle, it's an assertiveness. So your needs, if that's all you're interested in and that's the only agenda you have, then you could be considered aggressive. If it's the other person's needs is all you consider and what you put as most important in the interaction, then you can be considered passive. And so the assertive person is someone who can balance their own needs with the needs of others. And I think that we all are pretty clear about what aggressive communication is, but we're just going to highlight the effects of aggressive communication. And so aggressiveness can alienate others and it can create unnecessary stress within relationships. And those on the receiving end of aggressive communication often feel attacked. And over time, people who behave aggressively can have a string of failed relationships and little social support. And for people who are used to communicating passively, they may see assertiveness as aggression. But there are very distinct differences between being assertive versus being aggressive. And although assertiveness can be confused with aggressiveness, the key difference between the two styles is respect for the other person. So individuals behaving aggressively tend to be disrespectful, manipulative, demeaning, or even abusive in relationships. And they make negative assumptions about others' motives, or they don't think about the other person's point of view at all. And that's the biggest difference. So a person who is being assertive will still have the capacity to hold space for the other person and consider their point of view. And then on the other end of the scale, assertiveness compared to passiveness can be that passive people do not know how to adequately communicate their feelings and needs, and they have a very strong desire to keep the peace. However, as we see, passive communication doesn't always lead to peaceful results because the passive person tends to let their needs go unmet and others win, but others win at the expense of them losing. And passive behavior can damage relationships in the long run, sometimes turning them toxic because the passive person can easily become resentful of always allowing the other person's needs to be met. So, by avoiding confrontation, the passive person, when they finally do say something, it can actually come out aggressively. And this is where there can be that miscommunication and that a person feels that the only way to communicate assertively is by becoming aggressive. However, that's because they haven't communicated assertively. If they stay quiet for most of the time, the other party often doesn't even know that there's a problem within the relationship until the passive person explodes. And this can lead to hard feelings, weaker relationships, and then even more passivity for that person in the future because they have a desire to avoid conflict. So, if you want to know how passive you are, because in terms of communication, I think people who communicate aggressively consistently are quite a small percentage of the population. However, most people communicate either passively or passive aggressively. And so, if you think that you are passive, ask yourself some of these questions. Do you say yes when you don't want to? Do you feel people take advantage of your kindness? Do you feel you don't have the time to take care of yourself because you are too busy taking care of the needs of others? Do you sometimes find that you apologize for things you didn't do or didn't cause? You feel guilty quite a lot of the time. You avoid conflict, and you can even tend to spend time with people you don't actually like because you are more inclined to compromise your values once another person is happy with you. And so, then, in order to have your needs met, what the passive person can sometimes do is to start communicating passive aggressively because they don't want to come across as aggressive. However, this is you show aggressiveness indirectly in passive aggressive communication. So, an example of this could be feeling hurt by your partner, so you no longer cook their meals or wash their clothes. You are indirectly being aggressive towards them. And this type of communication style does damage relationships. And the biggest thing that it does is it sends mixed messages when your words say that you're okay, but your actions suggest that you are not. So you are not communicating clearly about what is actually hurting you. And so if we imagine a scale with assertiveness to passiveness, the best way to look at assertiveness is that I win and you win. And we break it down as I care about myself, but I also care about you. And that's why we win in that situation, is because the focus is maybe not on the problem, but on the fact that we have respect for the person in front of us. And we also have respect for ourselves. But with passive aggressive communication, we both lose because the message that's being conferred is I don't care about myself and I also don't care about you. And so that it's a common way to communicate, but it's actually the worst for both people. And so a passive person then is that I don't care about myself, I care about you. And so that's they lose in order for the other person to win. So we can see where the resentment grows. And then, of course, with aggressive communication, it's I care about myself and I don't care about you. So I win at the cost of losing you, or maybe your respect or the relationship. So, how to become more assertive is to take an honest look at yourself and how you communicate. If you have difficulty accepting criticism, you might become numb or shut down. If you say yes to requests, if you have trouble voicing a difference of opinion, and if your communication style tends to alienate others when you disagree with them, you might employ the silent treatment. And so, if you've answered yes to any of these, you may benefit from assertiveness skills. So, the biggest way to become assertive is to use I statements in a way that shares how we feel without blaming. That an example could be I feel like I am being attacked when I share my opinion with you. And a variation of this could also be the story I tell myself when you respond to my difference of opinion is that you don't like me if I don't think the same. And so, in both these situations, we're taking ownership for our view of things, but we're also showing respect for the other person. So, it lets the other person know how you are feeling while enabling them to correct any misconception that may be there. So, assertive communication techniques: be factual about what you don't like. So, try to focus on the facts, not the person. So, don't use negative labels or words or judgments. So maybe it's a case of a person who habitually runs late, and instead of saying you're so rude or you're always late, you can say we were supposed to meet at 11:30, but now it's 11:50. And don't assume what the other person's motives are. They may not value their own time over yours, and there may have been a very valid reason why they were late. And just highlight the fact that you've got less time to spend together and you would have preferred more. So try not to judge or exaggerate while you were communicating assertively, and also focus on your body language, your tone of voice. So stand up straight, maintain eye contact, relax, and use a firm but a pleasant tone. Stick to the I messages of this is what I need. I would like it if you could not be late in future. And again, don't forget to listen to the other person and to take their needs into account. So that is pretty much all that we have today. I'm just keeping these short. I'm just giving highlights and synopsis of communication techniques and definitions. So, if you would like to know more about the work that I do or delve into these subjects in depth, where within my workshops I go into a lot more depth, we practice assertive communication. We look at maybe where your original communication style has come from and how to improve it in all ways. You can check out my website at www.elementsofempowerment.com. My name is Dee Baker, and it's been great to be with you guys today. Okay, take care. Bye.